Hey there, welcome to Friday's edition of Journey Through the Gospels. Today we were in two chapters, John 2 and 3, and today we're going to look at the first part of John chapter 2. And if you remember several years ago, quite a few years ago now, Johnny Carson used to host The Tonight Show, and there was one time when there was a little 8-year-old boy on there, and Johnny asked him the question. After talking to him for a while, it was very apparent that the little boy was a Christian, and so Johnny asked him, if he'd gone to church, and he said, "Yeah, I go to church." And he said, "Well, what are you learning at church?" And the little boy said, "Well, last Sunday we learned about the story of Jesus changing water into wine." And so Johnny said, "Well, what did you learn about that? And what did you get from that story?" And the little boy said, "I learned that if you're going to have a wedding, make sure you invite Jesus to it." In John chapter 2, we see the first of Jesus' miracles, where he changes water into wine. And indeed, it would be a good thing to have Jesus come to your wedding. Let's read it. "On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, 'They have no more wine.' 'Dear woman, why do you involve me?' Jesus replied. 'My time has not yet come.' His mother said to the servants, 'Do whatever he tells you.' Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, 'Fill the jars with water.' So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, 'Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet.' They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, 'Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now.' This, the first of his miraculous signs, Jesus performed at Cana in Galilee. He thus revealed his glory, and his disciples put their faith in him." Great story, and a couple of things from that that I want to look at today. And the first thing is what Jesus' mother, Mary, said to the servants. Mary comes to her son Jesus and says, "Hey, they've run out of wine." And Jesus says, "Why are you bothering me? Why are you involving me? My time hasn't yet come." But then notice what Mary says to the servants. "Do whatever he tells you." Do whatever he tells you. And that is wise advice for anybody. Do whatever Jesus tells you to do. Being obedient to the Lord is the best thing that any of us can do. Whatever the Lord says to do, we should do it because he knows best. He knows the right thing to do, and he is the wisest person in the universe, and we should trust him and trust what he says. And so do whatever he tells you. And then notice, after they did that, they filled up the water jugs, and Jesus turns the water into wine. He takes has them take a scoop of it to the master of the wedding, and the master says, you usually serve the best wine first, and then you have all the old stuff later on when people have been drinking for a while, and you give them the old stuff at the end. But he says, you save the best stuff for last. And so notice that when Jesus makes wine, he makes the best stuff. He makes the best things. And so this is what I want us to see, that whenever we do what Jesus tells us to do, he always gives us his best in return. When we do our part, which is obeying the Lord, then he does his part, and it's always the best. He always does the best. He doesn't do anything second class or second rate. He always does things the best. And we have to do our part. Our part is being obedient to him. Then he does his part, which is the best. I've heard people talk about, supernatural. That we do the natural, but Jesus does the supernatural. Bottom line is this, is that we need to be obedient to the Lord. He does his best. Whatever you need done in your life, or whatever the Lord says to you to do it. Be obedient to him. And he is going to do the best for you in your life. You can count on it. You can count on it. You can trust His Word. That's going to do it for today and for this week, actually. I hope you have a great weekend. On Monday, we're going to be in John chapter 4. Have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you Monday.